Hi guys, welcome to another Dark Tales to True Deep Woods horror stories. In April, we embarked on a favorite activity of mine, a hiking and camping trip in the deep woods. The trip coincided with a time when my wisdom tooth was bothering me, causing discomfort but not extreme pain. Throughout the day, we explored the woods and hiked, but as night fell, the weather turned for the worse. The rain varied from heavy downpours to a light mist, and a storm was approaching. We drove to a remote and neglected forest, deliberately seeking solitude away from crowded areas. The road had become overgrown with trees, and the scraping sounds against the vehicles were disconcerting. Nevertheless, we found a wider area amidst the second-growth forest, surrounded by a few old-growth trees, where we decided to spend the night. I preferred not to sleep in a tent and opted to rest in the car instead. With the windows down, we listened to the wind picking up, signaling the approaching storm. It wasn't too cold that night, making the open windows comfortable. As we settled in the car, we started hearing occasional sounds that resembled distant conversations between two men in the woods. The noise was clearer during lulls in the wind, but the gusts would drown it out. The voices seemed continuous, as if they never stopped talking. My roommate and I acknowledged the eerie sounds, unsure of their origin or intent. Things took a darker turn when we began hearing what appeared to be a baby crying in the distance, which made me feel extremely nauseous. The cries were louder than the storm and seemed to draw nearer. Feeling uneasy, we decided to leave the forest and drove about 2 miles until we reached a better maintained road to sort out our belongings. While organizing our things, we once again heard voices in the distance, but they eventually ceased. Suddenly, we heard someone running from behind the car, and the sound reached us incredibly fast. This was followed by a large black mass approaching the driver's side window, which frightened my friend and caused us to speed away. The creature was indiscernible due to the darkness, but its size was imposing. Eventually, we found another camping spot down the road and spent the rest of the night there without any incidents. However, I remained on edge throughout the experience. Since then, I still enjoy hiking in the deep woods, but I approach it with caution. Occasionally, I sense an eerie feeling, as if something is watching me intently from the tree line when we take breaks during our walks. Hi guys, welcome to another scary story. So forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting deep wood horror stories. I had gone for an extended walk in the woods, which is an activity I often do, particularly during summertime. On this particular day, I started early, taking my usual route through a vast woodland with several paths leading deeper into the forest. However, I decided to make a change to my routine and walked along a riverbank to catch glimpses of the river, which was more secluded compared to the other paths. I had been walking for about 3 hours, carrying a book, food, drink, and a first aid kit in my bag. Despite being someone who usually enjoys nature and the outdoors, I couldn't shake off an intense feeling of discomfort. Although I tried to ignore it, the unease grew to the point where I couldn't relax anymore. As I ventured deeper into the woods, the sense of loneliness became unsettling. I convinced myself that I was simply scaring myself and tried not to let it affect me. However, everything changed when a mysterious figure wearing a cloaked outfit and a crow-like mask suddenly appeared in front of me. This unexpected encounter alarmed me greatly, but I tried to act unfazed and calmly told the figure I would continue on my way. The figure remained silent, just tilting its head as I passed by and continued down the path. Feeling unnerved, I couldn't resist glancing back, only to find the figure still watching me from the same spot. It gave me a wave that felt more sinister than friendly, and my unease intensified. Attempting to shake off the fear, I made a rash decision and flipped the figure off. This action triggered a disturbing reaction as the figure began chasing me, emitting intense and eerie noises. Fear consumed me, and I ran for my life, managing to escape onto an open footpath where I found other people. I felt both relieved and anxious, quickly informing them of the encounter. Once I returned home safely, I reported the whole incident to the authorities, but due to the remote location deep in the woods, it was challenging for them to investigate.